Prose is, frankly, narrative fiction, often, or anything that is not poetry and drama. This is prose interp.
Utopia. Is it an idea that you've ever considered before? The perfect time and place and way to live? Well, William James certainly considered it. He conceived of a land that was all harmony and bliss because of one lone individual somewhere at the edge of existence who was the soul of suffering for that entire nation. But Ursula K. Guin describes for us such a utopia, describes the price we may have to pay for it, and describes The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Guin. With a clamor of bells that set the swallows soaring, the festival of summer came to the city Omelas, bright-towered by the sea. In the streets, between houses with red roofs and painted walls, processions moved. Old people in long, stiff robes of mauve and gray. In other streets, the music beat faster, a shimmering of gong and tambourine, and the people went dancing. The procession was a dance. All the processions wound towards the north side of the city, where on the great water meadows called the green fields, boys and girls, naked in the bright air, exercised their restive horses before beginning the race. The air of morning was so clear that the snow, still crowning the 18 peaks, burned white gold fire across the miles of sunlit air under the dark blue of the sky. Joyous. How is one to tell about joy? How describe the citizens of Omelas? They were not simple folk, you see, though they were happy. But we do not say the words of cheer much anymore. Given a description such as this, one tends to look next for the king, mounted on a splendid stallion and surrounded by his noble knights. But there was no king. They were not barbarians. I do not know the rules and laws of their society, but I suspect that they were singularly few, as they did without monarchy and slavery. So they also got on without the stock exchange, the advertisement, the secret police, and the bomb. Yet I repeat that these were not simple folk, were not dulcet shepherds or noble savages, bland utopians. No. They were not less complex than us. The trouble is that we have a bad habit. We can no longer describe a happy man. Oh, how can I tell you about the people of Omelas? They were not naive and happy children, though their children were, in fact, happy. They were mature, intelligent, passionate adults whose lives simply were not wretched. Oh, but I wish I could describe them for you better. I wish I could convince you. Omelas sounds, in my words, like a city in a fairy tale. Long ago and far away, once upon a time. Well, they could perfectly well have central heating, you know. Ooh, subway trains, washing machines, and all kinds of marvelous devices not yet invented here. Floating light sources, fuelless power, a cure for the common cold. Or they could have none of that. It doesn't matter, as you like it. I'm inclined to think that people from towns up and down the coast have been coming into Omelas during the last days before the festival, on very fast little trains. But even granted trains, I fear that Omelas so far strikes some of you as goody-goody. Smiles, bells, horses, parades, blah. Well, if so, please, add an orgy. If an orgy would help, don't hesitate. Surely the beautiful nudes can just wander about, offering themselves like divine soufflés to the hunger of the needy and the rapture of the flesh. Yes, let them join the processions. One thing I know there is none of in Omelas is guilt. But what else should there be? I thought at first that there were no drugs, but that is puritanical. For those who like it, the faint, insistent sweetness of, druze may perfume the ways of the city. Druze, which brings a great lightness and brilliance to the mind and limbs, as well as exciting the pleasure of sex beyond all belief. And it is not habit-forming. For more modest tastes, I think there ought to be beer. Most of the processions have reached the green fields by now. A marvelous smell of cooking goes forth from the red and blue tents of the provisioners, while the faces of small children are amiably sticky. The youths and girls have mounted their horses and are beginning to gather around the starting line of the course. All at once a trumpet sounds, and the festival of summer has begun. Do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? Then let me describe one more thing for you. In a basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Omelas, there is a room. It has one locked door and no window. A little light seeps in dustily between cracks in the boards. In one corner of the room, a couple of mops stand near a rusty bucket. The floor is dirt, a little damp to the touch, as cellar dirt usually is. A mere broom closet or disused tool room. In the room, a child is sitting. It could be a boy or a girl. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. It picks its nose and occasionally fumbles vaguely with its toes or genitals as it sits hunched in the corner farthest from the bucket and two mops. It is afraid of the mops. It finds them horrible. It shuts its eyes, but it knows the mops are still there and the door is locked and nobody will come. The door is always locked and nobody ever comes. Except that sometimes the door rattles terribly and opens. And a person or several people are there. One of them may come in and kick the child to make it stand up. The food bowl and the water jug are hastily filled. The door is locked. The eyes disappear. But the child, who has not always lived in the tool room and can remember sunlight and its mother's voice, sometimes speaks. I will be good. Please let me out. I will be good. It speaks less and less often. It is so thin its belly protrudes. There are no calves to its legs. It lives on a half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day. It is naked. Its buttocks and thighs are a mass of festered sores as it sits in its own excrement continually. Oh, they all know it is there. All the citizens of Omelas. They all know that it has to be there. They all understand that their happiness, the beauty of their city, the tenderness of their friendships, the health of their children, the wisdom of their scholars, the skill of their makers, even the abundance of their harvests, and the kindly weathers of their skies depend wholly on this child's abominable misery. Now, do you believe in them? Are they not more credible? But there is one more thing to tell, and this is quite incredible. At times, one of the adolescent girls or boys who goes to see the child does not go home to weep or rage. Does not, in fact, go home at all. At times, also, a man or a woman, much older, falls silent for a day or two, and then leaves home. These people go out into the street. They walk down the street alone. They keep walking and walk straight out of the city of Omelas, through the beautiful gates. They go on and they do not come back. The place they go towards is even less imaginable than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. But they seem to know where they are going. The ones who walk away from Omelas.